Hi everyone, this is Selvi. Today's topic is best practices in sprint execution. So, we have already discussed about the topics of sprint planning and how we are preparing our sprint backlog, and we are ready for the execution. So, now we are in the execution phase after the planning. So, now during this execution, there are certain practices, some tips which we follow. It will actually smoothen the execution and it will help us. So let's see one by one the best practice, what I generally feel it is helping me in my sprint executions as well. First one is priority of task in the execution order. What is the priority of task here? First thing, from the product backlog, based on the priority, we have pulled the work items that will fit in the sprint backlog for this execution of the sprint, and we have planned the sprint backlog. So all the items in the sprint backlog are of high priority. That's why we picked it from the product backlog. But now, when we say here as well the priority, so we know from product backlog when we are pulling, if the work item is of low priority, we won't give importance to that work item. We always give importance to the priority work items, and then we will check if it is meeting the definition of ready, and then whether it is fitting in our capacity. Then we will be committing those work items as part of our sprint goal association, and then we will take it in our sprint backlog. So already it is prioritized. What is the priority here in the execution? It is there. Let's take a very simple example just for understanding. In this sprint, we are planning to work on a user story to implement the functionality of adding products. Okay. So when we click on the add button, the related details of the product should be entered in text fields, and when clicking on submit, the related product gets added in the table. So that functionality we are planning to implement. This is on sprint 1. Let's say that we are on sprint 1. Now in sprint 2, what we have already planned is we will be implementing the delete functionality of the product. When we say delete functionality, there should be a product, then we select the product and click on delete, the product gets deleted. So if there is no opportunity to add the product, how can I select a product and go on with the delete option? There is a catch. So this particular implementation of add functionality is very important so that delete functionality in the upcoming sprint will not have any issues. There is an alternate solution as well. By chance, in sprint 1, if we are unable to complete that functionality, what we should even think of in sprint 2 for delete? Manually push some records from the backend and ensure that they are appearing in the screen for delete, and select that option or the product and click on delete. This is an alternate solution. This again needs some effort. But always when we have these kind of dependent work items, we should always think about alternate solutions as well. That's why I just mentioned about the alternate solution. Now coming back to our topic, it is very important if we need to implement this add functionality in this sprint 1. Otherwise, we have a trouble in sprint 2 to implement the delete functionality, or we need to spend some extra effort to manually do some alternate workaround. So this particular user story of adding the product in the sprint 1 takes high priority among all the work items on sprint backlog because it is having a dependency for the upcoming sprint. So Among the work items in the sprint backlog, we should always have priority work items in those work items. The reason being, all the work items will not have high priority. As I mentioned, some work items are really, really crucial for the upcoming sprint. So we need to be really careful when picking the work items in the order. This should be given high priority than the other one. So this is the first practice we need to follow. So how to get this priority is another question, right? Because team may not be having that level of clarity, but definitely product owner will be having clarity about this, because for the next sprint we already may be having certain plan, certain goal that product owner may be thinking of. So as a scrum master, if you are unable to really figure it out, what is the priority item out of these all items in the sprint backlog, please consult your product owner and identify the high priority work item in all these work items of sprint backlog. So this is my first best practice I want to share. Second one, avoid cherry picking of task. What is cherry picking of task? Sometimes developers tend to pick so many tasks at a time, and all the tasks will be in the state of in progress, and you will not be able to really understand what's happening in these tasks, because more than one task, if it is in progress, it's not a good advisory action. Why so? Why we created task? First of all, to understand on daily basis how are we moving, are we getting blocked, and do we have any challenge for the upcoming task, and do we have any kind of dependent work items, am I actually depending on someone else's task, or my task actually someone else is waiting. We need to have that clarity. So task is very important for that. We have already discussed about task and its related details and the assignment in our previous episode. If someone who have not listened to that, I request you all to just go through that so that you will have a clear picture of task and its related details. Now, and another thing I just want to mention here is, whenever we create a task, we ensure we accommodate things that can be taken care in a day time. In a particular work day of 8 hours or 7 hours or 6 hours, whatever the hours that you are planning in a day, that many hours, whatever the things that we can achieve, that alone we should put it in a task. The reason being, we should not carry forward a task for more than one day. Why so? Then we will not be able to really monitor. The advantage of having task is we need to clearly see whether we are able to progress, or are we blocked, or are we taking more time than what we have planned, or somewhere am I seeing some kind of challenge which is delaying my work. That's how we will be able to easily track, especially when we are in a new team setup. So here, when we are planning the task for more than a day, then we really kind of miss that flavor that in a day a task is not getting completed, it is getting carried forward for more than one day, and really we are delaying the task, or are we getting blocked, or the task itself is planned for such a long time. We have no clarity here. So when we say this kind of practice, when we follow when creating tasks, it's very important we should plan it in a way we are not picking more than one task at a time and working on it. What is the challenge? Again, the same challenge. We will not be able to really understand where we are blocked, where we are really in progress. Are we working parallelly? Is multitasking possible here? Or are we facing any kind of challenges in multitasking? Is that feasible? All those questions are coming. So it is advisable highly that please pick up one task at a time and complete that work and move to the next one. And in addition to that, do not cherry pick on the work items. When I say cherry picking, okay, let me complete the design work of all the stories and then I will move to the development. No, don't do that. If you are planning, if you are a full stack developer and you are planning to first create an API and you want to design the screen, first complete the API completely, then go to the UI screen, then complete the integration part and move it to the testing, and then move to the next story where you need to contribute for the backend work. Let me complete this user story 1 backend and then go to user story 2 backend, then user story 3 backend, and then come to user story 1 UI. Please do not do that. This will create unnecessary delay in testing also. So do not cherry pick on the task. Have a detailed level of execution in the order, which is really helping the development as well the testing activities and the overall activities in the sprint. This is the second practice. Third one is intermediate testing. What is this intermediate testing all about? What happens in general sprint execution? The developer will be keep developing the things. Okay, the development will be keep going and we will be keep on developing the things maybe till the 8th day or 9th day, and when every tester is going to push all the work items for testing to the tester on 9th day and we have only one more day left out. Okay, I'm talking about 10 days sprint. The sprint length is of 10 days. So how is it really feasible for the tester to manage these many items on the last day? How to manage this kind of situation? There is an option called intermediate testing. Why we are keeping all the things till the end and then pushing it to the tester? Why can't we give it in small pieces? How can the small pieces maybe? Like when you have the API ready, please give it to the tester. Ask them to test whether for the particular request, am I getting the right response or not? Okay. Is everything fine? All the testing that need to be taken care from the API side, have I covered that? Okay, fine. Now coming to if the UI is ready, why can't we ask the tester to start testing the UI part alone? Only the UI. Because whether it is actually aligned to the wireframes that have been provided, and is it following all the UI UX guidelines, and is there any kind of issues in the font, color, font size, all those things, all cosmetic issues, are we facing anything? So if we kind of break these things into smaller one and given to the tester will also have good amount of time to manage this. So at the end, when you integrate these pieces and give it as a whole user story to the tester, they would have already covered most of the testing. And it is also a good time. Just they also need to check as a one happy path flow as well the negative scenarios they need to cover, and they can complete the testing. And in addition, if there are any issues that are coming up, developer also will get good amount of time in fixing when we have intermediate testing. Otherwise, on 9th day, if we are directly going to the tester and giving the whole user story for testing, there are chances if some issues that are coming up, you don't have ample amount of time as a developer to manage that and fix it. In those cases, there are chances these user stories will get into a spillover. Spillover are work items that are targeted to be completed in the sprint, which were failed, means we were unable to complete it, and those items are called as spillover items. So this is the third best practice to follow intermediate testing. Fourth one is plan reviews at every level and align the details to definition of done. What is that called as? Sometimes what we will do, we have completed the design, but we wouldn't have consulted with the architect for the review, and we would have taken it, okay, anyway, review, we can keep it at the last moment and we can send it as a bundle to the architect for review. No, please do not do that. There are chances your architect may have some kind of observations or comments that you need to update. So then and there, plan the reviews and ensure all the things that we have planned in the definition of done is taken care. In definition of done, always keep one checklist item called as review process. Not only for the code review process, at every level. When you are designing the test cases, ensure that you are reviewing the test cases. When you have a design, ensure that you have a a design of the design review. So at every level, review should take care. You should do the reviews. So this should be written on the checklist DOD as a specific item as well. During your execution, you should really follow this. At every level you should have the review process, not only at the code level. The advantage of having this kind of reviews at the design level, there are chances that we may need to introduce certain level of security testing as part of the work what we are planning. This may be captured when doing the design review, which we never thought of. So these kind of opportunities we will get when we have an early review, and every phase we should have the review. This is the next best practice I want to share, especially on reviews and aligned to definition of done items. When I say definition of done, I just want to add one more point. Please ensure you have taken care of the code coverage by adding relevant unit test cases, and ensure that you have merged the code in the right way and everything is taken care. There should not be any piece of work related to this particular user story or the work item should be taken care after completing this work. Everything should be taken care. So ensure that definition of done has all these items, and also as a developer and tester and as a team, we need to take care that all the things are taken care well in advance. When I say all the work, it is also about documentation. Sometimes we will be doing the development and testing, and we may think, oh, definition of done has document part, oh, I missed it. So beginning itself, ensure that this particular work item, if it is a bug fix, you may or may not need to be updated with your document part, because it may not get into any additional information in your documentation of information for use, that is IFU document. But in certain cases, when you are adding a new feature, like for example the adding the product, you may need to add certain information in your document. Have you given the sufficient information to your documentation engineer, so that they will also be parallelly working? So when your testing is taken care, do we have the sufficient documents also available for testing? So this is the very important piece that we need to ensure as part of definition of done. So the last item I just want to discuss as a best practice is pair programming and pair testing. So sometimes it's very important. As a team, we need to ensure how are we going to manage our development and testing activities. Sometimes you can involve another developer as a pair programmer when you are developing the code as a best practice, so that at the very beginning itself you will be able to capture the defects or the loopholes that you have in the code. Similarly, you can also contribute in another developer as a pair programmer. Similar way, you can ask your tester to share some time by going through the code and explaining what are the things that you have covered, so that if any use case is missed in the code, tester also will be able to highlight that point. And in this concept, when you are reviewing the test cases that are designed by your tester, it will also give you a good understanding that what are the use cases that you need to cover as part of this user story. So that is why I mentioned in the review, it is very important you are reviewing at every phase. When you are able to review the test cases that are designed by the tester as a developer, you will be understanding, okay, these are the use cases that are going to be covered. Have I covered all these things in my piece of code or not? So that is giving you an opportunity to manage this even before it is actually being tested by the tester. So it's very important that we are covering these reviews. In addition to that, at the end, as I mentioned, on 8th or ninth day, when so many work items are pending for testing, developers also can contribute and sit with the tester and share the load and balance the work. It's not necessary if I have developed a functionality, I no need to test that functionality because I may not be able to capture good level of defects on that. But I can contribute on someone else developed code as a tester so that I'll be able to look with fresh mindset and look with various options what is written on that, and I can identify some observations. Leave the final call to the tester as a process of sign off, but initial contribution that can be managed by a developer during the last days of the sprint where we have so many work items for testing. For this best practice, you need to implement certain things during your backlog refinement meeting itself. In backlog refinement meeting, if we try to recall, we as a team, we will be estimating the work item, not from developer, not from tester, not from documentation engineer. We as a team, and we all know that what work is going on. We all know that anytime if there is a situation as a team, we should be able to contribute for this work item, what we are committing as part of the sprint. So here, even though the tester is blocked with so many items, developer, as they have complete knowledge about what was discussed in the backlog refinement meeting, they should be able to contribute in the testing activity as well. So everyone is aware of all the details so that anytime if there is a situation that they need to contribute, they will be in a situation to contribute. So this is one of the practice I just want to share, which helps as part of the sprint execution and which should be also taken care from the backlog refinement meeting. So these all are the best practices I want to share as part of the sprint execution. Thanks everyone for listening. Happy learning and stay tuned.